are back on the shelves. So after how many? October, November, December, January, February, 5 months or so of painting on my Orcs and Goblins. We had the big game at the weekend, and they're now back on the shelves. As you can see, everything's looking a bit full here. I've got my new Empire stuff along there, my new Orcs and Goblins there. The Snotlings kind of wrap around a bit here. So I guess all of my sci-fi stuff that's up the top here is going to get pushed out as the next things happen. So I'm not sure what the next thing will be yet. The next big game we've got will be at Bring Out Your Lead, back up at Foundry in August. We're doing some 54mm dungeon bashing for that, so I've got those figures to paint. But let's just take a look at some of the footage that I managed to get over the weekend of the big Orcs and Goblins game. So here we are at Foundry, and if you've not been to Foundry before, I recommend going along. It's a great place to have a look in all the cabinets, as well as all the stuff that they've got on sale there up in Newark. So here we are from the Orcs and Goblins side of the table. There's my little contingent there. As you can see, part of quite a large battle. We've got about 25,000 points on each side here, and I think in retrospect that was a little bit too many for the table. We had about 2 foot set up each, and not really a lot of room for manoeuvre. I did a lot of moving forwards, waiting for artillery to soften up the line and for some gaps to open so that we could spread a bit. And it was fairly slow moving on the infantry front. It took me about 4 turns to get into combat, and the game lasted until the end of the 4th turn. So they were standing around not doing very much for a lot of the game. But I guess that's always the way with the 4th edition game. Your infantry advances slowly and maybe does a little bit of combat, a little bit of flanking. But most of the game is main characters on flying things and magical things, I guess. And there was quite a lot of that going on. Some fairly normal consulting of rule books, rolling of dice, that kind of thing. You can see here Fisto, who's one of our favourites, engaged in battle with the Clockwork Dragon there. Things went rather badly for Fisto, unfortunately. The dragon got him by the finger and chased him off the table, and he didn't come back. So plenty of other giants on the table though, and lots of other monsters. Everyone chatting, having a rather nice time. Here we are a few turns in. You can see I've made a little bit of progress. My dragon is still very much stuck behind the lines because he's not a flying dragon, he's a crawling dragon. But he's doing a pretty good job here, mopping up a stray fanatic that got loose behind the lines, chomping him down so he doesn't cause too much damage to our side. And then he went on to toast some knights that had used Bridge of Shadows to move round and attack another unit in the rear. So he served his purpose, as did the pump wagons. So my single deck pump wagon managed to charge ahead quite fast, unimpeded by huge weights of Snotlings, and crashed straight into the front of a war wagon, taking out the wagon completely, destroying the horses, destroying most of the crew. The rest of the crew routed off, and the unit behind unfortunately set upon the Snotlings, but they'd done their job. The other pump wagons, much less successful, I guess, because they had a second tier. They were heavier, they were taking a lot longer to go forwards. There's the knights on the flank. They mopped up our right-hand flank pretty quickly and were rolling up the table towards us, but I think it would have taken them a few more turns to roll the flank as successfully as they wanted to on such a large table. Giants holding their own in the middle of the table there. So that was a good game, quite fun, enjoyed that. The other thing that's always nice at Foundry is to take a look in their display cabinets. So they've got a My personal favourite is this one, which has got the Mike McVeigh metal prototype Hero Quest figures. It's always wonderful to gaze at those ones. It's a bit of a, I guess, holy grail of mine to come across some of these metal prototypes in the wild, especially the Fenrir. I'd love to get my hands on one of those. I think is extremely unlikely. I've got a metal prototype Advanced Hero Quest Dwarf, and I think possibly that's as good as it's going to get, but quite happy with that. So there goes the Space Crusade stuff again, metal prototype figures, and the Gargoyle, the ultimate Hero Quest baddie. Again, that's the metal one, the Mike McVeigh prototype. Some fantastic blending on the face there, and cabinets full of all sorts of old Citadel and Marauder bits and pieces. There's the old original Genestealer Cult, and yeah, lots of very early Citadel miniatures in those cabinets. So they're well worth a look. As you can see, they're a bit deeper and larger and more filled than my own, with some particular treasures. This is all chaosy stuff. And some of the Dave Andrews buildings, a lot of buildings that you'll have seen featured in White Dwarf there. So great to see those. I'm a big fan of those buildings. It's always a bit tricky, having been involved in such a big battle for such a long time, to know what to move on to next. I've packed away my my painting things, but as I say, I'll be probably moving on to that 54mm game. And we were talking in the car on the way back about doing some more woods, particularly the armies, the battles version of the woods, but also getting a Warbands campaign rolling. So be painting up some more stuff for that, I'm sure, and be good to show you some games of those. On the subject of the woods, one thing that I did for this game at the weekend as well was to paint up a unit of 30 of the Alvi Dharm, the new armoured Fae that were part of the last Kickstarter that's now being fulfilled. Most of the packages have gone out. And I managed to churn out 30 of those in 3 days, which I was quite proud of. They're very basic paint jobs, but I wanted to have them to hand as stand-ins for the Empire if they needed to be used. Not that they did, there was plenty of troops, but they made it up to Foundry. And actually, due to a miscommunication between myself and the caster, I've actually got quite a lot of these armoured Fae. So what I'm going to do is I'm creating a page on the website, which is oakbound.co.uk/sawyourvid. There won't be a link to it on the main website, but if you go there, you'll see packs of 10 of each of the 4 main types of the Alvi Dharm there, up for £15 for a pack of 10. So that's a special offer for anyone who's watching the video and wants to get themselves some armoured Fae or possibly some Empire stand-in troops. So go and check that out. That'll be up for a limited time. As I say, I've got a few of those, but once they're gone, they're gone. So thank you for joining me, and I will see you again next week with whatever I'm painting next week. Take care.